driving me crazy today, guys. Hit that like button as you come in. Say what's up in the chat. Say where you're watching from. Welcome to the daily live stream. All right, guys. So we got a couple of clips to go over tonight. Couple we're gonna take a watch at. Been uploading a lot of news, and that's just to kind of stay consistent and keep you guys in the know, because that's what we do with current events, news, and politics. Right, religion and all the things. So, with that being said, welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Kieran Smith, call me Q, and we are back on the corner. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the daily live stream. So, first clip we got up is from More Perfect Union. Now, I wanted to react to this the other day, but I kind of shortened it. I started briefly and I stopped it, so I'm not sure if you guys can see any of it in the previous live stream. So, I'm going to go through it tonight. I thought it was a good thing to watch. Why young men don't like the Democrats, which I can probably answer that question pretty well, but we're gonna take a look at More Perfect Union, and we're gonna take a look at why I think they got 5 guys here, why they're what are their opinions on the Democrats and why they don't like them too much. Then we'll switch gears and go to the Iced Coffee Hour clip. Shout out to them, I like their podcast, How to Build Wealth the Right Way. That's when they interviewed Charlie Kirk, so we'll take a look at that. And then we'll go over to Fox News, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Shout out to them. We got Benny Johnson on Charlie Kirk's changing his life. So that was a small snippet. I think it was during his funeral and during his memorial. And I want us to take a look at that. Just some of the things Benny said. Then we'll take a look at Zach Rio. Shout out to him. We got 30 minutes of the most embarrassing financial decisions of 2025. Those are always good to watch. And then we'll end the live stream with a Christian clip from Cliff Buell. Talking on Charlie, he says Charlie Kirk called out churches and pastors, which he did that often just because they're responsible for the flock, right? And there were just certain things that they wouldn't talk about. And Charlie was really big on saying, you know, your pastor won't ever mention this on Sunday, or your pastor won't bring this up to you, but, you know, you're okay with Donald Trump talking on these types of important things. So shout out to Charlie Kirk, man. He was always brave in that way. So let's jump right into this first clip. Why young men don't like Democrats. Let's take a listen.
Trump and Vance and them, you know, they just put themselves out there. They're more direct.
They have co-opted masculinity and they've politicized it.
I hate this term, the Joe Rogan of the left, that they need one. Joe Rogan is sort of left.
I do feel as though they are a distraction from
Well,
class
it used to be left.
consciousness.
All of a sudden, everybody's talking about young men.
Men.
Young men.
More than half of the male vote nationwide went to Trump.
Men under 30.
Men under 30.
This was the testosterone podcast election.
$20 million to try and solve this big mystery.
$20 million masculinity.
Whole culture.
The manosphere.
The
Hi,
manosphere.
my name's Richard Reeves, and I've spent the last few years thinking about, researching, and writing about the struggles that young men, and particularly working class men, are facing in America. Because of how the last election went, there's a lot more attention on young men than actually at any time since I've been working on this issue.
Denise,
So
shout
I've
out
been
to you.
wondering,
What's
all of
up?
this discourse talking
We're reacting
about
to news,
how many people have
politics,
actually
real life
talked to
events.
men? After all, the problems facing men are real and serious. Men account for 80% of deaths from suicide, 70% of overdose deaths, 70% of the homeless population in America. They've fallen behind in education, in the labor market, and other major metrics. And it's young men in particular, those aged between 20 and 30, who are feeling the sharpest impact of many of these changing ideas and paradigms about men's roles, opportunities, and their outcomes. So I had a pretty wide-ranging conversation with 5 young men about their views on dating, mental health, toxic masculinity, and of course politics.
I am a carpenter and a musician.
I was a former teacher and now I'm a union organizer.
I'm currently working on an undergraduate degree. I've been bouncing around different part-time jobs and internships.
I've done electrical, I've done construction.
Most recently as a substitute teacher and now working at the front desk at a tennis club.
Moving, cleaning, any type of physical labor.
Some of what they said might make you uncomfortable, but the reality is whether you're a progressive or a conservative,
Elias,
both
shout out
sides
to
need
you.
confront their problem with young men, or a large share of the population is not going to have a political home. That means they might turn to more extreme ideologies, and meanwhile their problems just get worse. So let's get into it.
Did you vote in past elections, and can you tell us how you voted?
In 2016, I voted for Trump over Hillary. Before then, you know, I didn't really vote, but I did support Obama in 2012 and 2008. We definitely went Trump in 2020. Not like I didn't support him. I don't support anything political, you know. I believe that I'm just a working man in America. You know, the president don't matter for me. They ain't gonna pass some crazy executive order that's gonna change my life or anything.
What's all happening?
Just smoke and mirrors for me, you know what I'm saying?
I voted in this election. I voted red down the ballot, and I voted in the primary. Before that, I was too young.
The last time I voted was 2012 for
Red
Obama.
down
Was
the
the first
ballot.
time I could vote. After that, I kind of felt as though, you know, politics and politicians were kind of blending into a uniform party overall, and things weren't fundamentally changing.
All throughout high school, I used to be a Republican, but my family got affected by the 2017 Trump tax cuts.
You got affected by it in what way? In a good way?
In a bad way.
In a bad way? Okay.
Yeah, and I was just thinking to myself, like, who is this billionaire to lie to us and say, well, I'm gonna fight for the truck driver, I'm gonna fight for the carpenter and the middle class person, when he's not any of those things.
So I've just had a kind of cynical view on general elections. You know, I really don't think the general election matters that much unless you live in a handful of states. And I just used it right in. I voted for local measures, but I don't really feel seen or heard by anyone in the government.
Let's look at some economic realities. In the top 20% of the income distribution, both women and men are flourishing on almost every measure. Growing wealth, longer lifespans. But outside of this top bracket, over the last 50 years, the trajectories for women and men have been very different. Women today are working more and for better pay than ever before. There's still a gender pay gap, but it's narrowing, which is great news. Men, on the other hand, are working less, often for worse pay. Real wage levels for many men are trending down. I wanted to know if the guys in this room were feeling the effects of these economic trends.
On average, do you think that men are having it harder or women are having it harder in the economy today? I'll start with you, John.
I'd say vaguely, man, but I'd say vaguely in the
Why?
in sort of barrel.
Why is that?
A big problem when you send manufacturing jobs off to other countries is that they are mostly blue-collar jobs. I don't entirely mean the stereotype, but it's,
Manufacturing skews
yeah,
very male. That's just a
manufacturing,
fact.
everybody's getting screwed, but I think if you're talking 50.01, then I think it'd be men.
Personally, like, including myself, I can think of like 5 or 6 of my friends who are guys who have college degrees and who have not been able to find work since graduating. Some of them even with like advanced degrees. I cannot say the same about any of my girlfriends. I can't think of a single one who's unemployed, you know, and part of it is just like, I think women at this age are naturally risk averse, so they're not gonna like leave a job if they don't have something lined up. There are a lot of different factors, but it's just an interesting thing to think about.
Obviously, I work with a lot of people that tell me about their wages, their job, and women are definitely doing better in terms of like white collar work. But on the lower end, there's people, of course, that are struggling and people that, you know, need help. And then there's people that just have nothing. And, you know, people that just have nothing, I see that being primarily women on the lower end. But we don't have the same opportunity as we used to, like you brought up with manufacturing. I mean, that's a really great point.
I also think when it comes to college education, I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure more women go to college.
Yeah, it's like 60-40, female, male now.
When you're having jobs that are looking for degrees, the percentage of men that don't have a degree versus the percentage of women that do have a degree probably affects it.
Labour force participation for men has dropped 7% in the last 50 years. A third of men with only a high school education are not working today, whereas in the 60s, almost all of them were working. And that's partly because male-dominated industries, production, manufacturing, construction, transportation, they've all been particularly vulnerable to a 1-2 punch of more free trade and automation. And loss of a job isn't just about the loss of income. For many decades, being able to find a well-paying job and provide for a family was an essential part of the script that men could look to for how to be in the world. But now things have changed, both for the better, with women having more career opportunities, but also for the worse, with the middle-class standard of living becoming increasingly difficult to afford, sometimes even on 2 salaries. And the men that I talk to, they say that even though the world's changed, the script hasn't really caught up. It's almost like they're being cast in a modern-day HBO drama with a screenplay from Leave It to Beaver.
You know, Wally, shaving is just one of the outward signs of being a man. It's a whole lot more important to try to be a man inside first.
There's still a feeling of like having to be a provider, despite
course.
the economic situation.
That's the way
currently
God
where
made it.
It's becoming increasingly harder.
Especially for working class men.
Yeah.
Do you all agree with that? That there is still this expectation on men
Of course.
to be doing well economically,
Absolutely.
even as it's harder for men to do well economically in many cases?
I think the expectation is there, but I think it's less of an external pressure and more among men. There's a sense of inferiority.
So you think it's more about almost like the competition?
I do, yeah.
But I want to get to this change thing. Maybe Chris, you and Joel, you both talked about your grandfathers, and I think you both talked about them providing, right, for their family. So how do you think it's different now? How do you think the expectations on men are different now to they were in your grandfather? Are they better or worse?
Worse, because the economy, things is more expensive now. In our area, the DMV has a lot to do with it too. Like, this is a high earning area. Cost of living is through the roof. But since my grandfather growing up down in Georgia, South Carolina, I don't even know what their rent was. It was probably somebody's car insurance.
But women weren't earning as much back then, right?
Nah,
So they were more reliant on him.
I never seen my grandmother work at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, my grandmother never worked. She was always at the house with me, or if I was in school, and my grandfather made enough
So
money.
she did need him economically in a way, maybe that women hopefully don't today.
She just knew that he was going to take care of everything.
Okay. And
I think men, yes, due to chivalry and traditional gender roles, yeah, they are expected to be providers, but I don't care if my future wife makes more money than me. That doesn't matter.
do any of you care? Will any of you worry?
I would love that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm proposing ASAP.
As long as she's in the union.
Okay, so this is interesting, right? But then let me ask you this question: do you think that the guy should pay on the first date?
Oh yeah, maybe the first few.
On the first date.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the first few.
Let's explore. Right? So there's tension here. All of you said you would be quite happy being in a relationship with a woman that earns more than you, but all of you said that you should pay for the first date, and you said that's really interesting to me.
I think it's more of an acknowledgement, like, I've asked you out.
So if she asked you out, it might be the other way around.
I mean, maybe, yeah, if she asked me out, I don't think that's ever happened to me, but like, if a girl was like,
I really want you to go out. It hasn't happened to any of us, by the way. So I don't know why we're all laughing. Men's issues with expectations can work the other way too. In a society following the old gender script, men are not only saddled with expectations, increasingly impossible to meet, but themselves are forced to expect less from certain institutions that are supposed to support everyone. I'm going to put you on the spot here a bit, Darren, because I know from some of the prep calls that you had some difficulties within a relationship. So we're here talking about dating, but let's talk about how relationships can end. I know you've had some personal experience with that. If you want to share.
It was an awful situation, honestly, because she actually ended up assaulting me. So I had like a bite mark. I even recorded it because she had whipped me with like a hair blow dryer before. And I showed it to the judge to try to get a protective order. And, he just laughed at the fact that I was taking back a hair dryer because obviously I don't have any hair. But, as a judge, when I'm saying, hey, this person assaulted me, a domestic violence situation, for him to make that comment was really painful. And ultimately I got denied the protective order, and she was able to stay in the house and, just continue being around me after assaulting me, after emotionally and mentally tormenting me this whole time.
It sounds like you feel like the courts didn't treat you fairly.
Not at all. I had blood on my arm when I went into to go get my protective order against her, and they said this is gonna last for a day. She, 2 days before she moved out, put a protective order on me saying that I was making Instagram posts about her. I was sleeping on the couch this whole time. She said I was busting in her door every day, verbally harassing her, and the judge took that and said, okay, great, your protective order is granted for 7 days like that. And like I said, I walked in with blood on my arm and got one for 1 day.
Darren's story is emblematic, I think, of the problems on one side of the political stalemate over issues of sex and gender. Liberals refuse to accept that gender gaps can now run both ways, and they're too quick to label male problems as individual failings, symptoms of toxic masculinity. Conservatives, on the other hand, do appear to be more sensitive to the struggles of boys and men, but too often as a justification for turning back the clock and restoring traditional roles. So the left turns its back on boys and men, and the right turns back the clock on women and girls. As you can imagine, these guys had a lot to say about both of these problems.
Two
What I'll
extremes.
say about Democrats not only abandoning men, but I also think they kicked them into the curb and spit on them. You're telling men not to be men. You're telling men they can't watch football because it's sexist or UFC because it's sexist. Yeah, men are into fighting. That's why Trump is there. You know, because Trump doesn't abandon us.
The Democratic Party has abandoned men. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Does everyone else?
Yeah.
But I think what's worse is the Republican Party actively lying to men. They play the culture war. They don't want to talk about who could actually be exploiting them, like billionaires, corporations, like trans people are not hiking my credit card interest rates. They did not keep my wages stagnant. You're focusing on the wrong 1%.
Yeah,
You're
that's
right,
pretty
man.
true.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Just threw you under the bus.
to your point.
I'm sorry, man. I had to get that out, man. I had to.
It's no
Come on,
Yeah, I
go
might
on.
have to say a point against.
Speaking as a transphobe.
Speaking as a transgender myself, but no.
That's
The point you
great.
made earlier about how sort of the working class people on both sides, there really is no need to hate each other. I was thinking about that recently. The divide in America really should be class. You know, work versus, you know, the elite. I can't see any conceivable way how in 2024 black people and white people can hate each other, or Mexicans or Latinos or whoever hate each other. Really, we should be hating the people making us hate each other. Now you can call it the Illuminati or Hydra. I call them Democrats, but besides that,
Deep state.
We're not cutting the corporate tax rate and giving them the ability to exploit their workers, but
But on the culture point, though, right? Wouldn't you say it does go both ways?
in which regard?
Don't you think on the left there could be a tendency to get women to blame men? It's patriarchy,
I
it's
can see
toxic
that.
masculinity.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Isn't there an argument that it's actually equally true on the left?
I wouldn't say it's equal. I would say the right absolutely plays more into the culture war than the left does.
I would say the reason why we do that now is if you look at, I'd say the 90s to early 2000s, the right, the Republicans at least weren't playing into the culture war thing. So we lost. We lost for a long time. And honestly, I think we still might. I think we did lose, and I think it's going to take a while for sort of Judeo-Christian morals to come back into, you know, over 50%.
How would you know if they had come back?
I guess we're so open nowadays. Would kind of be a way to describe it. You know, we aren't in ancient Judea 2,000 years ago, in a way, you know, which I think is fine. I think it's the world we live in. I don't need women covering
So
themselves.
very few people would want to go back to.
No, I don't want to either. I like America.
So let me ask you, whether you think the Democrats or the Republicans speak best to men right now?
I'd probably say the Republicans. I really can't answer it because I don't pay attention. None of them affect me. But I see
Yes,
more
Uncle
of the
Chugs,
Republicans,
it's
whatever they
floating.
talk about, 'cause Trump and Vance,
Shout
and them,
out
they
to
just
you,
put
Uncle
themselves
Chugs.
out there. They're more direct. You see Joe Biden's just some old guy, you can barely hear him. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what the hell he's talking about. And you got Trump who's gonna come direct more just to where I understand it.
I do agree that I feel like Republicans or conservatives have signaled to men, younger men, you have a place here. If you come with us, you'll have fun. You know, you can be expressive. You can open yourself. You don't have to be polite. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. You know, you don't have to be restrained. I don't believe it's the way that they funnel men into this corner is the best. I mean, you'll watch a video on YouTube about working out, and then Andrew Tate will pop up eventually, and then you know
That's
some more right-wing comedian will pop up, and then you'll have Joe Rogan, and then you'll have Ben Shapiro, and then you'll just be exposed to this whole manosphere.
I hate this term, the Joe Rogan of the left that they need. When Joe Rogan is sort of left, he endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020.
That's
All
true.
I've seen in
He
my
used
lifetime
to
is
be
Democrats
far
conceding
left.
more and more and more and more.
Especially on men's issues?
Especially on men's issues. And they're just like, slowly like shrinking the circle of issues that they actually care about to align with things that aren't going to get their donors pissed off at them, I
All right,
like the
don't be
point,
a
though, about
sourpuss.
Joe Rogan endorsing Bernie Sanders twice, because anytime somebody who appeals to young men across the board rises to a level where they might actually reach any sort of real power, Democrats just kneecap them.
The Democrats don't have a narrative when the Republicans do. The Republicans are immigrants, trans people, a bunch of minority communities. They're the reason why your life is bad. The Democrats don't have that. They have oh, we're going to tinker around the edges of the status quo.
Well, wouldn't they say that it's the billionaires? It's the
I don't think the corporate wing of the party would.
They're sitting in the room.
Yeah, they're sitting in the room. The Democrats have as much corporate money as the Republican Party does.
Do you think the
They probably have more.
The Women's Party?
I don't even think you can really say that. Like, I think there are probably more women that vote Democrat than men.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think Democrats are just completely empty and lack any real spine when it comes to any issues whatsoever. Republicans, they do the things they campaigned on. For better or worse, I think most of the policies they implement are just objectively evil and create more human suffering than, we already have. But they actually do them. And it speaks to voters. If you're the kind of person that thinks illegal immigrants are causing all the problems in this country, then you like what's going on right now. You like that people are being randomly kidnapped off the street.
There's an authenticity to it.
They're not telling you one thing and doing another. Democrats, on the other hand, they tell you that they want to do all these progressive things. They tell you they support, lowering the cost of healthcare and education. They tell you they support, raising the minimum wage. And then what happens when they get in office? Biden can't even get his own senators to approve raising the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour. Like, the fact that that's still the federal minimum wage in this year, 2025, is a joke.
Yeah.
What they were talking about really was a sense of authenticity.
Yeah.
There's a high degree of respect among men, I think especially for young men, for men who say what they think and stand by it.
He's been insanely consistent his entire life. He's basically been saying the same thing, been for the same thing his whole life.
That kind of codes as a kind of masculine virtue.
The Republicans, they have co-opted masculinity and they've politicized it. You see it in UFC. Like I'm
Dana White.
I like watching UFC. I think it's very entertaining. I think it's a very skill-filled sport. But I don't want to see Trump and RFK Jr. and nerdy Mike Johnson walking to the octagon. Like, people...
You kind of do want to see Mike Johnson doing that.
I don't want to see him anywhere.
Nowhere has all of this mess played out more than in one specific phrase. What do you think of the term
Come on, Mike Johnson,
toxic masculinity?
Come on,
Good
man. I
and
like
useful
Mike.
term,
Don't be
or
like that.
a bad and unhelpful term?
Who's answering that?
I'm just going to see who wants to take toxic
Well, I'll
masculinity.
go first.
This is how we find out who's the most toxic.
Well, I hope I ain't too toxic, but for me, I don't even believe in nothing like that. I believe a man is supposed to be a man. You know what I'm saying? He's supposed to be masculine. No matter if another man feels offended by it, everybody ain't gonna respect you. Everybody ain't gonna like you. If a woman's saying that a man's doing too much or something, he's just trying to be a man,
Or he might be being a jerk or a predator or whatever.
So what do they mean by toxic?
Right, that's the question.
Okay, yeah, I never understood it.
At one point, this term toxic masculinity had a very narrow and concrete, quite academic definition.
Bro, it's
It
a
wasn't
made-up
actually
terminology.
Created
It's
by
not even a
liberal
real
academic
thing.
elites. It came from a group of men, specifically men driven by a kind of spiritual movement in the 80s and 90s that was a response to feminism in many ways. Until around 2015, the phrase warranted just a few footnotes, really, in academic journals. But with the rise of Donald Trump and the Me Too movement, progressives brought this term toxic masculinity into everyday use. Suddenly it was everywhere, thousands of mentions.
Seriously.
Impossible to ignore. But the term is very rarely defined, and it now
Because
seems
it's
to refer
dumb.
to any male behavior that the user of the term disapproves of, from the tragic to the trivial. Toxic masculinity has been blamed, among other things, for mass shootings, gang violence, rape, online trolling, climate change, the financial crisis, Brexit, the election of Donald Trump, even an unwillingness to wear a mask during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Vaguely speaking, is
All
over.
right, you gotta be kidding me. What does this headline say? What?
Shootings, gang violence, rape.
Overcompensation nation. It's time to admit that toxic masculinity drives gun violence. How men at New Folsom Prison working with toxic masculinity. Give me a break. I can't stand that stupid phrase.
Online trolling, climate change, the financial crisis, Brexit, the election of Donald Trump.
Did bros cause the financial? Oh my God, crisis! Get out of here.
Even an unwillingness to wear a mask.
Donald Trump's toxic masculinity. How an aversion to mass stems from toxic Oh my, give me a
During
break.
the COVID-19.
That just sounds democratic. Just saying it sounds like a democratic.
Vaguely speaking, is overused. I mean, they said the term "boys will be boys" is offensive now in the same sort of way, and it's like, guys want to drink and punch each other. I don't get how that's toxic. I mean, I can sort of get the idea of, when Prohibition was coming to America, the idea is that the man makes the money, and instead of spending it on his family, he spends it on whiskey. Like, oh, and then he beats his wife. Like, yeah, I guess that's being toxically masculine, but I don't think that a wholesale exists anymore.
Bro, that's not being toxically masculine. That's being a freaking drunken and abuser. That's not toxic masculinity.
I just think it's a term. Yeah, to put down men who want to I'm not into makeup. That might be shocking.
That's just toxic.
That's just toxic. That's just regular toxic.
Before 2016, before this dressed up word, you know, you
I
have.
don't think if a guy's not into makeup, he's toxic. That's ridiculous.
This guy's an asshole. You know, he's overly aggressive. He's just, way too forward, or he's creepy, or whatever it might be. So you call him an asshole, you call him weird, whatever. But now it's toxic masculinity, and then there's like a whole bunch of other opinions that people can just lump into toxic masculinity. But when you call someone an asshole, you kind of just know what they're talking about.
Go back
Yeah,
to just
good.
saying
All right.
that. That's a lot easier. They should just go back to just calling guys a-holes. Like,
I'd like to. So, conclusion of this debate: everyone's an asshole. We should just know what's toxic.
Mission accomplished.
I don't find this response from the guys here surprising at all. Very few men or boys are going to react well to the idea that there's something toxic inside of them that needs to be exorcised.
Of course.
I didn't try to raise my sons to be not toxic.
Yeah.
That's not a very empowering message. I think if anything, it's the opposite, that the term toxic masculinity will sort of drive more boys and men away to the online manosphere, where they'll be reassured at least that there's nothing wrong with them.
There's nothing
but it's
wrong
actually
with
the
them.
liberals that are out to get them. But also, at a deeper level, what this means is that we miss the opportunity to address the real structural problems facing many boys and men, when instead we focus on the toxic flaws in those individual men. So if they're depressed, we say it's because they don't express their feelings. If men get sick, it's because they won't go to the doctor. If they fail at school, it's because they don't try hard enough. And that's a very far cry from how the term was originally meant to be used.
I think the term itself comes from a good intention, which is like, how can we create a healthier society for everyone involved? I think most of us would agree that there's a severe mental health problem in this country, and a lot of the time it manifests itself in men.
80% of suicide,
The suicide rate, addiction rate,
much higher on men.
Much higher.
I'd like to dig in a bit more on just how the mental health issues are kind of playing out differently for men and women. I shared some stats earlier around the much higher suicide rates among men. Actually, it's gone up most among young men. It's really men under 30 where we've seen the rise.
That's
The rise
the
in
highest.
drug poisoning deaths has been mostly men. Substance abuse is mostly men. And so it's not to say there aren't issues that go the other way, but I just like any more reflections that you've got on how you think the mental health stuff is playing out. We talked a bit about the lack of male psychologists and your counsellors, so maybe we should start with you, Ed, and talk a bit about your own experience.
Yeah, so I'm in recovery. I'm sober. I've been sober from primarily alcohol for 2.5 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
He's only 24.
It's a little tough being a 24-year-old in recovery.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
having
yeah.
the weird eyes and the weird questions.
Well, I
had
agree
young.
for 5 years. There's not much easier really.
Oh, congrats. Nice.
Thank you.
But no, it was just, I'd gone through personally a whole, string of personal losses, and unfortunately I turned to alcohol to cope with my issues mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I needed all the help I could get.
I think that the whole area of mental health gets, if we're not careful, it gets coded as a bit female.
Yeah.
It's what women do.
Yeah.
The websites look quite female.
Boys don't cry,
Yeah.
all that stuff, puff out your chest kind of shit. Boys can't go to therapy. I think everybody in their life should go to therapy. They should try it once.
Absolutely, I agree.
The medical field's all women.
Well, it's certainly shifting that way. And mental, and like psychology, therapy, social work, they're just becoming massively more female. Jobs like these, increasingly dominated by women, fall into the industries that I call HEAL: health, education, administration, and literacy. If we're going to do right by the men in our society, we need to both protect workers in traditional male industries and help men adapt to current economic realities by encouraging them to transition into these HEAL jobs. We know a lot about STEM initiatives for women, and they've helped massively. We've tripled the share of STEM workers who are women. But we now need the same type of mass effort for young men to encourage them into education and health. I'm very proud of the fact that my son is a 5th grade teacher. And gender gaps can't be addressed without also addressing class gaps. While the gender pay gap has narrowed by 19 percentage points in the last 40 years, the class pay gap between the top and the middle has widened by 12 percentage points.
There's a moment really I want to leave you with, stuck with me, and I found it inspiring. After we'd wrapped up, the 5 young men who disagreed with each other pretty strongly, they sat and shared a bite to eat, exchanged numbers, and they just hung out with each other, not as representatives of different political ideologies or as enemies, but as fellow young men trying to figure things out. And as we discussed, a lot of young men don't have a script anymore for how they should be in the world. Quite often they know what they shouldn't do, but they don't know what they should do. And so what we need now are some new economic and social scripts which allow for a positive vision of masculinity that is also compatible with gender equality. If we're going to write a new script for men that matches modern society, it's not going to come out finding the perfect influencer. It's going to come out of messy conversations like this one. So thank you for watching, and hopefully, no matter what side of the political spectrum you land on, you've got something out of this conversation. I know I did. More Perfect Union wants to have more conversations like this, not just about and with young men, but on all sorts of themes. Send them a line at stories@perfectunion.us. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the
stories@perfectunion.us. Shout out to them. That was such a this one was such a treat, and I loved it a lot. I want to react to it tomorrow from much more of a talking point, so I'm gonna save that for us because there's so many golden nuggets in that I just can't go over tonight just because of time wise. But I mean, I really thought that was great. Men don't have a script of how to show up in the world today. You know, I thought this was one really great point that I heard. He said that it seems like in the last 50 years, the trajectory for women has been going up and the trajectory for men has been going down. I don't know if people realize it, especially a lot of people who just didn't pay him any mind. But this is the reason why Charlie Kirk was so beloved by, I would say, especially a lot younger millennials. Like I said, because Charlie Kirk was a millennial. He's in my generation, but I am older than him. But a lot younger millennials and Gen Zers, because I think that's what he did. He gave really young men, especially young men between the ages of 24 and 30, a script on how to show up in the world. And that's what's missing today for them because all of this toxic masculinity. And that's why I said in the background there, I said, I can't stand that term because it's so stupid in so many different ways. There was a point in time where families got together and all the men would go with each other and they would go hunt and like smoke cigars and go drink beers, and like the women would go off and do their own thing. And when the women would go off and do their own thing, they weren't like sitting at the kitchen table talking about, look at those toxic men over there doing all of that toxic masculine stuff. Like, this is such a stupid phrase to me because it's just weird. Like, it's like, dude, there was a point in time where there was a place for this. Like when men went and they did their hunting and their cussing and whatever they did with their boys, like women didn't care about it or they cheered it on, or boys will be boys was a real thing. And now it's just like, I think it's all the years of just constant Democratic presidents. And I say this all of the time to people who look like me. You can't just keep voting blue because that's what you know or that's what you're used to. You have to get to know these candidates. And dude, that's it. That's why when one of the guys said I supported Obama, I'm like, oh my God, get out of here. Most people think so many times when they see me that I'm going to automatically be in support of Obama. And it's like, this is crazy. You know, so that I just love the fact that they touched on so many nuggets. So we're going to get into a lot of that manosphere stuff tomorrow. We're going to talk pretty deep into that. But today we're going to keep going. Another thing that's on, we could say, I guess, it's for everybody, but people might put this on a manosphere scale. How to build wealth the right way. So we got the Iced Coffee Hour clip. Shout out to the Iced Coffee podcast. How to build wealth the right way. And they did this episode with Charlie Kirk. So let's take a look at this.
I think it's really interesting. Ben Shapiro claims to be wealthy in America, you need to do 3 things. Graduate high school, get a full-time job, and get married before you have children.
Oh, yeah, and he's right. And that's the Brookings Institution. He's right on all 3 of them.
Do you think he's missing anything?
First of all, I like Ben a lot. We disagree on some big things, but Ben's great, and he's been a good friend for a while. Yeah, I would say like become a person of high character. Again, I'm going to kind of go back to a main.
Do you think that is essential to be wealthy in America?
That's a good question. I don't think being wealthy is that important. Like, do you want to be wealthy with the soul or just have like a bunch of money? Like,
well, that would be a different question, but I
guess so. But like the question is fine. You want to be rich? I can tell you how to get rich. Like, that's actually not that hard. I mean,
how would you get rich?
Like, work relentlessly and solve a problem for people, and like dedicate your entire life to it. and like become an insane person.
Do you think it's possible to still do all of those things though and then not become rich?
Of course, but like if your whole reason for living is to become rich, you will become rich. Most people I meet that want to be rich, they actually don't want to be rich. They want to have the lifestyle of being rich. They don't actually want to be rich. They're like,
that's actually very true when he says that. Literally, that's true. He says most people that I meet don't want to be rich. And I know some people would push back and say, what do you mean? Of course they do. But Charlie Kirk says they want the lifestyle of being rich, but they don't actually want to be rich. And that's why he says, dedicate yourself, solve a problem for someone, right? And become an insane person, because that's what that looks like. Like, you have to dedicate yourself to this in an insane way. And anyone, we're not talking about people who are well off. We're talking about people who are rich, high income earners. Let's go Dave Ramsey and higher. That's what he's talking about when he's saying, like, I do believe that there is a playbook for being rich if a person just wants to actually be rich. And he says, but most people don't want to be rich. They want the lifestyle. They don't want actually to be rich, because that would take work.
you have to sacrifice everything to want to become actually rich, unless you're born into it. Like, no nights, few weekends. I traveled 3,000 days.
It's never been easier to start a podcast than with Riverside. Here's how it works. First, go to Rivers.
Over a decade. I'm a million miler, American, Delta, United. I'm in all 50 states multiple times. Like, it's thankless, gritty work. Like, Shapiro hosted 2 radio shows, plus like Breitbart.com and Truth Revolt. Like, not easy. So if you actually want to be rich, then there is a path for you. You have to like sacrifice it like immensely. I don't drink alcohol. Like, Tucker Carlson doesn't drink alcohol. Donald Trump doesn't drink alcohol. That doesn't mean that like you can't be rich if you don't drink alcohol, but you must sacrifice stuff. Now, it might be that you create a good widget, or like you might have a good social media app, or you might get good venture funding. But even those guys will tell you, you have to fail a lot, you have to sacrifice a lot, you have to be really gritty. I just challenge the premise of like, what is the most important? Like, I think if getting material wealth is the most important thing, I think there actually is a playbook for that. That absent of like committing crimes, like being a really crappy person, being sociopathic, it depends also what you define as rich. Like, there is a way forward for if it's your number one reason for living to, you know, earn $500,000 a year. Like, that's very conceivable in America. But if you're like, hey, actually the most important thing is to have kids, which I actually think having children is more important than having material success. And I have both, and I can tell you kids are way better than having money. Like, honestly, not being poor is awesome. That's like the best thing I could tell you. Like, being super rich, and I'm not super rich, but I would consider to be successful under, you know, American terms, is great, but up to a place it's kind of like, you know, you're blessed, you're wealthy, it's fine. Not being poor is the true blessing. Not worrying about like medical bills or being in debt is like really bad. But yeah, it depends on what you want. If you want to be rich, like actually like have your bank account big, then America, of course you can do that.
How much of people being poor is their fault versus just the circumstances of their life?
It's both. It's very case dependent. A lot of it is agency. So we as conservatives tend to blame free will, agency on the person a lot more than circumstances. But of course circumstance play a role. Of course it does.
Why do you think conservatives generally stay silent on wealth inequality?
Well, I don't know if we're silent on it. I mean, I think that we're finally starting to talk about it. I'd say that we would say that don't throw rocks atop the building, fix the elevator. So the question shouldn't be like, how many rich people are. The question is, how easy is it to move up the socioeconomic ladder? That's the more important metric. And that's actually becoming harder. So that's a really important conversation. But I could probably agree with a liberal that it's not good to have like an entrenched permanent oligarchy that's running the country, and that people have to go into debt and go into credit to pay for their groceries. Like, I actually don't want to live in that country. So I can agree that we should talk about it more. But is there anything like inherently wrong with a billionaire? No, like most billionaires actually have solved big problems for us. Like, you know, people love hating on Elon Musk. I like Elon a lot. He's become a friend. I know there's been like a lot of social media talk about it, but I refuse to say anything negative about Elon. Like, okay, you tell me the next time you're able to launch a rocket and land it. Like, actually, that's pretty cool. Like, okay, you're able to revolutionize the electric car industry. Like, you deserve a lot of money if you do that.
One of the things that I've been confused about is why financial literacy is never taught in schools. Like, you think that this would be something taught throughout middle school, high school,
Yes.
college. Why is that?
I mean, if you want like an actual conspiracy theory, that's the best evidence of the conspiracy. If you want to like have people remain super poor and dependent on the government, don't teach them financial literacy. It's like, it's inexcusable.
And who do you think is in charge of that?
No, I'm not. Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't know who's like the designer of that conspiracy.
Right.
The incentives are aligned.
I'm just saying, like, if you want a generation to like have to go to the payday lending people And if you want to have them like filling out credit cards at 25% interest, don't teach financial literacy. I don't know who, I mean,
It's convenient.
I'm a big school choice advocate.
Yeah.
I think that we need school choice. I think the public sector teacher unions and the public sector cartel have done a huge damage to this country. But yeah, I mean, look, there's how many young kids right now that are 17 can tell you the difference between credit and debit? They can't. So one of the things I like about Trump's upcoming big beautiful bill is that every new baby born in America will get a $1,000 loan from the federal government in, I don't know if you guys know about this, but in a investment account that they can't touch, they're 18, invested in the Dow Jones Industrial Average that they'll be able to monitor throughout their 18 years. It can be grown by philanthropists, family members, grandparents, so they'll actually be able to see their wealth increase. They're stakeholders. So if we have 2 kids, if we have another kid, that kid will immediately have an investment account that's only a one-way drop box. You can't access this money until you're 18. So it actually creates ownership units for the next generation. I think it's a phenomenal
So I wish
idea.
they did that with Social Security.
Oh, of course they should.
You just
we were told it
invest
was a
that.
lockbox and it wasn't. Of course, but no, I mean, look, if you want like the secret to get rich, it's actually not super hard. It's like live below your means, save your money, invest in good companies, and then find good ideas and read a lot. If you just read a lot and you like all of a sudden you'll see trends and you'll be well informed. Again, I don't want to make it seem like it's super easy, but it depends what you define by rich. I mean, I'll say one final thing. People are so bad with money. Like again, if your top priority is getting drunk, okay, then go do that. Like I know a lot of people, they're like, I want to be rich. I spent $700 going out this weekend. Like, oh, yes, you don't want to be rich, okay? You want to feel good and you want to have a bunch of, toxins go through your liver, but you actually don't want to live a life of happiness and contentment. And I'm not a moralist, if you want to drink, go ahead, it's a free society, go do that. But then don't all of a sudden complain to me that you're not materially wealthy.
It just seems like it's such low lift to make a huge change in terms of wealth inequality if there was just one course taught in high school about financial literacy. And so, like, let's just say hypothetically, I'm just a casual viewer of, I've been watching for a very long time. And how difficult would it be for you to just, reach out to Trump or reach out to someone and be like, what do we got to do to put some incentives into the school system to teach financial literacy?
But you know what? It might hurt a lot of businesses if people were smart with their money.
When your auto insurance coverage is too big or too small, it feels, that's why USAA has options that fit your needs.
Oh, it would totally,
Just
the credit card companies would freak out.
They would freak out.
Could you imagine like Visa and MasterCard?
Apple,
They'd be like,
these poor
people are asking
Apple,
questions about 25% interest. I mean, so
Apple would sell a lot
How
of phones,
difficult would that be?
I mean,
is there just way too much interest at
No, it would just be difficult. It's very hard for the federal government to control curriculum.
But to apply it as incentives.
Yeah, the states should do it. Like there have been some ideas to do this. I know that there's big companies that have tried to do this because they're like, oh yeah, we're giving money towards financial literacy. I'm sorry, like it's not working. Whatever you guys are doing is not working, okay? Whatever program you think that's going on in financial literacy, you guys are all a failure. You should all be shut down because it's just not working. Because I deal with the next generation. They know kaput about financial literacy, like very little to nothing. And this is one of the things that I just want to caution everybody about, which is like, I'm very, very pro crypto, but I know a lot of people that lost money on crypto. I'm sure you guys, I'm very, very pro crypto. I think it was a huge opportunity. I think it's incredible technology for everything else, but like the best way to build wealth is over long periods of time, saving money and doing boring stuff. It's not get rich quick. It's not big meme coins, right? It's not big spikes. It's just going to work, saving money, and living below your means. I know that's not the sexy answer everyone wants, but that's what Warren Buffett did. Warren Buffett's one of the world's wealthiest men. He started with like very little money 70 years ago. And the eighth wonder of the world, the eighth wonder of the world is?
Compound interest.
Compound interest. Yep. And no one wants to hear that, right? They want to hear about like, what's the next NVIDIA? Okay, I don't know, but I can tell you that in 40 years, if you put $100 a week into a moderately managed, wealth account, you're gonna be great. $100 a week, man. I can't afford that. Okay, well, let's talk about it. How much money do you make? Oh, I make $91,000. You can afford $100 a week. Stop getting your Frappuccino. Stop going out to drink with your friends. right?
I've been saying this.
You sound exactly
So,
like
I
I mean, the reason why we're called the iced coffee hour is because he had a joke on his channel called the 20-cent iced coffee, and you can save $3 a day, which is $100 a month. And if you just
Raylan,
invest
shout out
in
to
a
you.
Roth IRA, yeah, a Roth IRA, you know, assuming 10% interest, you have some inflation, but when you're, 60 or whatever, you'll be a millionaire.
And it all came from a guy who was spending $500 a month at Starbucks.
No,
Yeah.
not that guy.
You're that guy?
Well, now I am, but like,
Oh.
no, I know, it's terrible. It's not good.
But you have amazing coffee makers upstairs.
Aren't they incredible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I also drink a lot of tea. At Starbucks, like, so when you travel a lot, the one thing with Starbucks is consistency, right? So it's just like, I don't know what mom and pop, place there is in Wyoming. I don't know.
It's a coin flip if it's good or not.
Exactly. So the only argument for like mass proliferation of Starbucks when you travel is.
You do the rewards though, right?
Yeah, Mikey does.
It's funny, I actually have coffee socks on, believe it or not.
Good for. Oh, I like coffee is really good.
Yeah.
I'm very pro coffee.
So,
I think coffee gets a bad rap. It's very, very good for you, actually.
Yeah, coffee gets a bad rap. And that's true, it actually does have a lot of health benefits, depending on how you drink it as well. Alright, so let's switch gears. And like I said, I appreciate this, right? Because some people will just like take you around the ringer. And this is why I think Charlie was so popular with like a lot of the younger generation, because they're sitting there, these two young men, and they're asking them, like, you can see that they're intrigued. And especially the other guy, he's like, how do you get rich? Like, he's very intrigued to see how Charlie's going to answer that question. And what I loved about this when I first watched it is that Charlie didn't take them around the ringer. He was straightforward. And he said, if you want to be rich, like, we're talking like material rich, because I like the fact that he had soul first, because we know as a Christian, Charlie would have easily made that conversation about Jesus. But he says, I think there's a playbook if someone wants to be material rich, right? And I love the fact that he did that, because so many people, like, you'll have younger people ask that question, even mid-age people ask that question, and they really just want, is this possible answer? They're not asking you, like, how many hours should I work? Or like, should I be doing a hobby or something I really, really love? It's like, is this even possible? And that's why I like Charlie's answer, because he goes, I think there's a playbook for something like that. But a lot of people, they don't actually want to be rich. They want the lifestyle of it. And that's why I said earlier, I said, yeah, because if they wanted to be rich, they would know that that takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of dedication and consistency. He's like, but nonetheless, they definitely want the lifestyle. So I just love the fact that he tells them, hey, I think there's a playbook for that. You dedicate yourself, you do something you love, you're passionate about it, you solve a problem for people. And a lot of people who have become extremely wealthy, those are the exact same examples they've given as well. All right, guys, so switching gears, we're going to go to Fox 9, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Benny Johnson, Charlie Kirk changed my life. Let's take a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Benny Johnson.
This is a clip of Benny at Charlie's memorial.
Fight for Charlie Kirk. Who feels the Holy Spirit in the house tonight? Who can feel that revival happening right now? How does it always work? What man intends for evil, God intends for good. Evil thought that there would be a funeral today. God has created a revival right here in this house right now.
Bro, Charlie Kirk had a Billy Graham funeral. Most people will never see that many people at their funeral.
Charlie always had that revival energy, didn't he? When Charlie first met me, I was a degenerate loser. I'm still a loser, but I was addicted to alcohol. I had no wife, I had no kids, I had nothing going for me. After 10 years of work with Charlie Kirk, after his witnessing to my life, I have become a Christ-centered man. I am happily married to the woman of my dreams, sitting right there, with our youngest son, who just turned 8 today, 8 months. And he's wearing Ducks for Charlie's beloved Oregon Ducks today. That's Baby Whitaker, in honor of Charlie.
Shout out to Baby Whitaker.
All of you had a Charlie moment in your life, didn't you? Raise your hand if Charlie Kirk centered you a little closer to Christ. Did Charlie help you achieve your American dream a little bit more? Did Charlie have that effect? Look at every single hand. Stand up. Say amen. If Charlie Kirk had that effect on your life. Look at this. 100,000 Americans, millions watching online, standing up and saying, that is the revival spirit of Charlie Kirk's life. And that is the power of martyrdom. Because Charlie Kirk is a martyr in the true Christian tradition. If you take out a tyrant, his power goes away.
Yep.
You cut down a martyr, his power grows.
This is true.
And that's what we see.
Well said, man.
Time and time again, we're seeing it across this country. Who's seen the full churches, the full parking lots? Who knows somebody now who's a Satanist or an agnostic, who's now looking at Charlie's life in this revival moment in our country and going, maybe I got it all wrong. Maybe I do need to Christ center my life. This is what Charlie always wanted. This is how he wanted to be remembered. In the mold of Stephen, the first martyr, Stephen was killed for speaking the truth about Christ, much like Charlie Kirk. The martyr Stephen was the same age as Charlie Kirk when he was martyred. At that time, Christianity was just a few very scared Christians in Jerusalem. And after Stephen's martyrdom, Christianity spread throughout the known world. The power of martyrdom. This is how God and Christ always advances his kingdom, and he's doing it right now with Charlie Kirk. It is a wonderful thing to see. We were all witness to a miracle. Charlie's life was a miracle. We could all see it. Those who worked up close and those who watched from far away. We got to witness a miracle in Charlie's life. Someone who was there that day when Stephen was martyred was Saul. Saul was the one who was taking the garments so that Stephen could be killed. And through Stephen's martyrdom, the Apostle Paul was reached by Christ to go out and write the majority of the New Testament. There was no one who was irredeemable. And that is what Charlie would have wanted us to know about his faith in Jesus Christ. The power of Christ's blood and the power of martyrdom speaks through Charlie. The Apostle Paul would go on to write the book of Romans. And I'd just like to close with this. In Romans 13, the Apostle Paul talks about a godly government instituted by our Lord and Savior. And what does he describe?
Romans 13 is talking about submitting yourself to government authority. Basically, it's talking about any government or any authority that's in place is not there for any reason, and it's there because God put it there. So this is important, what he's saying right now. I'm actually happy that he brought this up, because most people don't believe that there is a chapter in the Bible, and in its entirety, it's talking about how you should listen to your government, obey the laws of your government, and God also puts a disclaimer in there that, hey, I haven't established government and give them the power that they have for no reason at all. So I'm glad Manny brought this up.
Instituted by our Lord and Savior. And what does he describe? The Apostle Paul describes how God establishes the rulers of the nations. In the audience right now, there are rulers of our land. Represented right here is the State Department, the Department of War, the Department of Justice, the Chief Executive. God has instituted them. God has given them power over our nation and our land. God saved our president, President Trump, from an assassin's bullet for this moment. And what does the Apostle Paul in Romans say about a godly leadership? He says that rulers wield the sword for the protection of good men and for the terror of evil men.
Yep. That's what it says.
May we pray that our rulers here, rightfully instituted and given power by our God, wield the sword for the terror of evil men in our nation in Charlie's memory. I want to live in a country where the evil are terrified and where the good and the faithful and the moral people of our nation can live in peace, debate in peace, disagree in peace, and start families in peace. And so we want to thank the administration for being here and carrying out that godly mission of wielding the sword.
Damien, shout out to you,
against
Damien.
evil.
Thanks for stopping by and hit that like button.
In conclusion, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this to all the young men in the audience, and I can see so many young men out there. Charlie really reached young men and women, but this is the advice that Charlie gave me. Center your life on Christ. Fall in love. Get married. Have 1 million kids. And live out your American dream. And by doing that, we can create millions and millions and millions of Charlie Kirks. And we can save our land. That will be our turning point. God bless you. And God bless Charlie Kirk. He's looking down on us, smiling from heaven. God bless you. Thank you.
You can tell that he had a pretty big impact on Benny. Benny said he's worked with him for 10 years, and because of that, now he's a Christ-centered man, married to the love of his life, with his youngest son there, 8 months old. And that's the type of impact he had on a lot of people that were close to him. A lot of people close to him who were hurting, who he went alongside. And he did exactly what Jesus did. He walked with them. He asked them to walk with him. And that's where a lot of this was missed at, where I can say as a Christian, I felt just heartbreak over it. I felt bad that a lot of people couldn't see that there was a lot of misinformation out there. And that's why some of you guys have seen the material that's on my channel. Because especially people that look like me, they need to be informed. Like, I can't stand the black pastors that are uninformed, that had the audacity to go into a pulpit and say that Charlie Kirk was a racist, and they're pastors that they already have a very faulty theology, because I already know some of their background. They did do their research and they're ill-informed about Charlie Kirk, and they got on their platform on a Sunday and they bashed this man who is also a Christian, and they're going to have to answer for that. And I don't think they realize that they're going to have to answer for that, because a lot of people play Christianity. Right? They play into the politics of certain things. If you didn't know anything about Charlie Kirk, then you didn't know anything about him. Then I don't think you should have even put your 2 cents in. But some people on a Sunday morning, especially the teachers of the congregation, felt like they had to chime in. If you knew who he was, then I think as a pastor, you are obligated to say something. If you had no idea who he was, then I think as a pastor, you are obligated to do at least a little bit of research and not act like it didn't exist. Because this is why there was such an uproar in the church when George Floyd happened. Because a lot of pastors just didn't want to be transparent. They didn't want to be transparent about the fact that, listen, like, we've seen police brutality in the past, but let's talk about the facts. This man was on drugs at the time. This man was involved in committing a crime at the time. There's a lot of bad behavior that you can see on camera before he even gets to the ground. A lot of pastors were scared to tell the truth and be transparent because they didn't want to lose their congregation. And this is where, when the Bible talks about a watchman, specifically in the book of Ezekiel, and it talks about the blood of the people being on the hands of the leaders, this is what it's talking about. Not being honest with the people, not telling the people what's really going on and how they should be acting as followers of Christ. Conti, shout out to you. Let's see. God didn't appoint the wicked and evil rulers. He allowed them to rule. Many of those people in power. Yeah, absolutely. He did allow them to rule. He allows that. That's what we have to understand. Like, And there's even times in scripture where we see Israel with a horrible ruler or a bad ruler or being overtaken by a horrible nation because this is what God allows, right? So he allows these things. It's our job to submit ourselves to governing authority. If you keep reading and you go to Romans 14, it starts to get even deeper and talk about that the government doesn't have its power for any reason. This is where I learned where so many people would debate me about the death penalty and say, how could the death penalty be godly? You better believe it, because between Romans 13 and 14, it's definitely talking about the government does not have the power to take your life for no reason. It does not. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, people can put themselves into a position where the government can do this and it's righteous and it's justified because God established government. This is what people don't understand. So when I saw just a lot of these pastors get up there that were very uninformed about Charlie Kirk and say things like, well, we're not going to get up here and lift up a racist, and we're not going to get up here and lift up a fascist, and we're not going to get up here and lift up a white supremacist. I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, you had the gall to get in the pulpit on a Sunday. You have no idea what you're talking about, and you're comfortable just calling this man all of these different names. They're going to have to answer for that. They're going to have to answer for that. So, all right, guys, let's switch gears. A little lighter subject. We got Zach Rios, 30 minutes of the most embarrassing financial decisions of 2025. I've been playing more of this on my channel. Shout out to Zach Rios. He does a phenomenal job. Like, dude, I could watch him all day because he just does a great job of catching some of the greatest clips on TikTok and on the social media about people just crashing out, making the most craziest decisions that would give Dave Ramsey a stroke if he knew about it. Like, it's crazy. And I play this type of stuff on the channel because other than politics, the news, real life events, right, religion, I want you guys to be good with your finances. Anthony O'Neill, he used to work for Dave Ramsey. I've talked about him on the channel before. I want us to be right with our finances. I don't want us to be living paycheck to paycheck. I want us to know what a retirement account looks like, and what stocks look like, and what high-risk investments look like. So I like to play these things so we can also be informed about finances. So we're going to watch some pretty bad decisions. Not the way they do it. They don't do it like the Bible the same way. No, they don't do it the same exact way. And that's because people are faulty, you know? But God is still in control. Even when we have a leader that's the worst of the worst, God is in control, right? It doesn't matter. Someone could say, well, why would God purposely put a leader like that in place? Well, I would put it more like he would just allow that leader to be in power for a season. And that's for whatever reason that God chooses to allow it. But he's always in control. Good leaders or bad leaders, our leaders aren't the one that dictate our lives. We go by Jesus Christ, right? But we still have to respect our leaders. This is why when I see Christians that are like, I love Jesus, but I hate Trump, I'm like, your theology is off. Like, you're a little skewed. Not because you don't love Donald Trump. It's not about you loving Donald Trump, but you respecting your leader. I mean, we don't even have to even get all the way to Romans, right? We could just look at how David's example with his treatment of Saul. Saul was probably one of the worst leaders to David at some point because he was just crazy. 1 minute he loved him, 1 minute he wanted to kill him. 1 minute he hated him, 1 minute he wanted him to sing for him and play the harp for him. Like, he was just crazy. So, and David honored him. He was respectful towards him. He protected him. He even murked somebody over him. Like, somebody literally that finished the job. Saul was already dying, but somebody that actually finished the job because Saul asked him to. When the guy came to David to bring David Saul's crown, and he tells David the story about how he got the crown, David's like, yeah, he murked him because he's like, why did you feel like you could kill the king? So, I mean, that's honor right there, all the way up until the point of Saul's death. So it's not really about, like, you know, we respecting Donald Trump because you like him or because you agree with all the legislation, EOs and policies passing. It's just because for whatever season, this is the person that God has allowed to be the president of the United States. It's the United States. And especially as a Christian, it's crazy to me if you're asking this question, because then I know that in some way, shape, or form, not only are you struggling with scripture, but you're struggling with honor. You're probably having some struggle with reverence, because these are things that God has put into place. So let's take a look now on a little lighter subject about some people making some horrible financial decisions, which will probably make you guys laugh, because it definitely made me
Today
laugh.
I decided I'm going to be cashing out my entire
retirement. Every
32 years old. She just said, today I decided I'm going to be cashing out my entire 401k. She's 32 years old. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Today I decided I'm going to be cashing out my entire retirement.
Every new agent should go out there and buy that brand new BMW or Mercedes that they cannot afford.
The guy on here sold his car, thinking the rapture's gonna happen on Tuesday.
So today we have another episode of a staple video series on this channel. We're going to be watching people make some bad financial decisions. I truly think that life is too short to just learn from your own mistakes, and the internet is an amazing tool to use. There's basically an unlimited amount of experiences and advice online for anybody to see, and I think that this could be really useful for many people. We have a lot to go over today, along with comments from you guys from previous videos, so if you want to be featured on a future video, leave in the comments down below. But let's start off with a more recent story in the news lately, the apparent rapture that was supposed to happen a few days ago, and all the bad decisions that went along with it.
The guy on here sold his car, thinking the rapture's gonna happen on Tuesday. Did you know that there's a whole section of TikTok where people think the rapture's gonna happen on September 23rd? What are you gonna do if you don't?
Well, I don't think I really have to tell you, nothing ended up happening, but there are many videos online of people doing exactly that, freaking out, saying that they're so worried about their children. They were actively selling all of their possessions, even though, say if the rapture was going to happen and everybody was going to go up to heaven, right? The end times are actually here. Why would you need cash in the first place? It's not like you're bringing your USD up to the pearly gates. The thought process right off the bat just does not make sense. But some of the comment section, I need to start checking Facebook Marketplace for some deals. I'm a millennial and this is my third rapture. It was fun the first time, but God, do I miss the Mayan calendar. Him riding to work on Wednesday with an image of somebody on a bicycle. Why does the rapture only happen in the US? Is he taking the money with him in the sky? Exactly what I was thinking. So I don't think I really have to tell you, probably not the best financial choice to sell all of your material possessions for way cheaper than what they're worth, just because you thought the end times were here. Very odd way to start off this video, but let's just move on to the next clip.
Today I decided I'm going to be cashing out my entire retirement. I recently discovered, which I should have researched earlier, that my retirement is doing really well because 16% of my mutual funds are invested in BlackRock.
Shout out to BlackRock.
So well with me.
They doing well for me too.
And I don't believe in the system anymore anyway.
Bro, what do you mean you don't believe?
Sarah,
you don't believe in the system? Like, what's wrong with her? It doesn't matter what system you believe in. You do not cash out your entire 401k at 32. Like, are you okay? DJ Pimp, shout out to you. Kirk first, Trump next. Kirk first, Trump next. DJ, I would be careful with that. But I can see why you would say something like that. Damien, God also said to seek him. Shout out to you, Damien. That's true. Yeah, but I can see why you would say that. It seems like they want to silence. Oh man, they want to silence the red side. They don't like the conservatives. They're upset with them. Yeah, but she's got like cashing out your whole 401k at 32. Come on.
It's so well with me, and I don't believe in this system anymore anyway.
That's not a reason.
If you don't know, I'm Sarah. I quit my corporate job back in January. I've been a nomad all summer. I'm DJing now on TikTok and started a creator network and trying to build an app that changes the way that we work entirely.
Hello traders and welcome back to the Trading View channel. In this guide, we're introducing our new smart AI indicator, which
So because 16% of your portfolio was invested into a company that you didn't like, you were just going to pull the plug on the entire thing.
And they're doing well.
Investments at all, maybe just put it in SPY or VOO, something safe. I'm just going to pull everything out, take all the penalties, start DJing on TikTok, and make an app that is going to change the world. Wow. We should just go right over to the comment section. 65-year-old you is going to hate the current you. Why don't you just change the investments instead of withdrawing? Don't cash out. Sell the BlackRock mutual fund.
reinvest in something else. You'll also face tax implications. That's what I was saying. I'm completely fine with you not investing in a company that you don't like, but there is no reason to pull everything out because of it. This is so funny because the company you're actually mad at is Blackstone and not BlackRock. The creator even responds, they're both bad, but you're correct. I got them mixed up, so she didn't even know what she was talking about originally. And you decide to make this life-changing choice, because I don't think I have to tell you how difficult it's going to be to retire in the future, especially if you're around the millennial or Gen Z age. She's 32. You're going to pay the government so much money. Imagine Caleb Hammer seeing this on his 40 page. This is also not a one-off issue. I've seen other clips doing the exact same thing, saying that they're going to pull all of their money out because the system's rigged. I don't care if the penalty is 100%. I don't want to be investing at all.
That's
Which, I mean,
stupid.
in the end, it is your choice.
You're
Are
not
you
gonna
making
get
a rash
anything.
decision like this because you're most likely in your 30s, not thinking long-term, 30, 40 years in the future, will really come back to bite you in the end. You could have just kept that money in your 401k, but invested it in CDs or bonds. You could have even invested in SPY or VOO and not risk exposure to private equity. This was an incredibly poor decision. People saying that over and over again, you could self-manage your 401k and avoid private equity, but instead they didn't do any research and made some pretty bad choices. I've asked you guys in the comments before, what was the worst financial decision that you've ever made? $1,000 on a briefcase, funding a $2,000 PC on a credit card back in 2016, just paid off May 2025.
Oh my gosh.
Using my savings for a $70,000 Model Y? Do they even get that expensive? I thought they were around $40,000 or $50,000. Thinking I could afford another horse? We've seen some clips on how expensive that could be. Basically like owning a car. Financing a car for 84 months at $604 a month. All this comment says the trading card games, especially Pokemon, it's still wildly popular and very expensive. Not investing sooner, buying a house with 0% down. I started smoking, lending $9,000 to a guy I considered a friend and helped him get out of poverty. He let me down and never paid me back 1 cent. The worst thing I ever did was student loans for $24,000, complete waste of money. And there were many, many comments like that as well, but let's move on to the next example.
The number one worst purchase?
Meet Shark Cryo Glow, the new mid-spa inspired mask with under-eye cooling. IQ LED.
And I think most people are expecting me to say, oh, a brand new car, a luxury purse, or not getting takeout. This is arguably way worse than I actually would rather buy luxury goods over this one item. And it's a pet, specifically a dog. The fact is that dogs require a lot of maintenance. They're gonna, not only do they suck up your time, but you gotta feed them. That costs money. If you go on vacation, you gotta find a dog sitter. That costs money. Toys, accessories, those are money pits. Insurance, vet bills, those are also money pits. The thing is, most companies know that you have an emotional attachment to this pet, so they can charge you whatever, and chances are you're gonna pay it.
And I know people get very defensive with this topic because so many people like pets, including myself, but we've seen several examples on this channel that just to start off with buying a dog, some people are paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for some nice special purebred. And then you add in the food cost, which is gone up in price just like our grocery bills. Anytime you go to the vet, if something's wrong, it can be very, very expensive. And like he said, companies know you have an attachment to your animal like it's a child sometimes.
Well, this Zach just said that there are people paying $4,000 to $6,000 for certain purebreds. Are you literally crazy? Are you literally insane? $6,000, dude. Me and my wife had 2 purebred huskies, and we didn't even pay nothing close to that. I mean, one of them we did get him from a rescue shelter, but I mean the other one I've had him since he was a baby. Are you $6,000 for dogs? Come on, bro. Go to the ASPCA. Like, what is wrong with you people?
So they'll be able to charge ridiculous amounts, and you can't really say no. I'm not trying to say that nobody should ever have a pet, but you should probably be much more financially stable
Not
than
a
you think before you decide to get a pet.
What is one bad financial decision
I
that you're
mean,
making?
I can't even say this, right? Because this guy's literally about to say, what is one bad financial decision that you would make, right? So, but this is like if you got bread to where like you can, we talking like Elon Musk bread, right? To where you can buy something stupid and you'll barely feel it, right? So there's like 2 dumb things that I would buy, right? Like I can say right off the rip. This is not like two first things I would buy if I had Elon Musk money. This is just would be along the way after I've done some pretty important investments and saved some things aside and bought like a whole bunch of real estate, right? Then I would do like little stupid stuff that anyone would do because they just want to like spend money. So one thing I would buy is definitely a fire truck. I would buy a legitimate fire truck. And yeah, I don't really care about you guys' judgment right now, but I would buy a fire truck and I would buy a small monkey, right? Because I've always wanted a small monkey. So these are like two stupid things, but these are not two things that I would go buy like living paycheck to paycheck or like something that I would buy like if I only had like $80,000 in my 401k. This is why they're dumb decisions, because people aren't even financially stable and they're like, what I want is St. Bernard. It's like, dude, so what? Like, go get a mixed Dalmatian. You can't spend that much freaking money on an animal and you can't even afford to pay your car note. That's insane, but people do it. It's stupid financial decisions.
All right, true story. Nobody gonna believe me, but true story. I was on a game show. All right. Yeah.
What game show? What game show?
I Can See Your Voice on Fox.
Okay.
And I ended up winning 100,000.
True story?
True story. This is a true story. I swear to you, honest. You could go find me. I win 100,000. I ended up getting the check a year later. Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna take all my boys. We're gonna go to Vegas. So
Oh
I
my
got all the
God.
money. We get a big penthouse at the Cosmopolitan. That was $1,800 a night. We stayed for 1 week. I promise you that whole week, I left with $0. Gone.
What?
Gone. Everything, word to everything. Word to my mom.
What did your family have to say about that?
What they gonna say? It's my money. I made it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, man, it's like you gonna make money and then
money gone?
Yeah, you gonna make it and you'll make it back somehow.
But you didn't make that. I bet you he didn't make that 100,000 back. I bet you he didn't make it back.
He got a gift that not many people get on this planet by winning a game show, and you decide to blow the entire thing in 1 week at Vegas. Many people would kill to have an extra $100,000 in this climate. He didn't talk about the tax issues that come along with it. We've seen other experiences where people have won $100,000 doing something, but taxes were not taken out. So at the end of the year, the tax bill was significantly more than they thought. $100,000 drops down to what, like $68,000 or $65,000? I guess it depends on what state you live in. So that could be another issue on top of it. Again, I don't know what happened in his situation, but some of the comments asked him if any of those friends are still around. Biggest fumble of his life. I bet he thinks about that money every single day. Not even out of the country, he spent it in Vegas.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
that. Safe investment, getting a free $5,000, $7,000, or maybe even $10,000 a year would alleviate at least some financial burden for the rest of your life. Another comment from you guys, they say a smart man learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from others. Thanks for these videos, and that's exactly why I make them. Compiling a whole bunch of different stories, experiences, advice, I truly think can help a lot of people out, especially if you're younger and don't know too much about finances. I've talked about it before. I was never a finance major in college or into really any of this when I got out of high school and into the real world, but I learned everything that I know from the internet, from watching YouTube videos, looking things up, and hopefully now I'm doing the same thing with my channel, helping anybody who watches.
Let me go ahead and just say it out loud. I was not educated on financials at all. School did not educate me, my parents didn't educate me. I was thrown into the mix and I was not given any heads up. Recently I did something stupid. I got a high interest loan. That's what I just learned what it was called after talking to the lady on the phone. So I took out a loan for $500 because I was gonna miss out on paying rent for that month of, I think it was March, maybe April. I don't even remember. But I do know that I took out $500 of a loan. It was just a loan company I had seen online. They were quick to give me an answer. They were quick to give me the money. I should have known better. Anyway, they tell me that the $500 loan would have a little bit of interest. I'd have to pay in total $600. They sent me paperwork. I signed it. I moved forward with the process. I'm dwindling down to like maybe the last $200, $300. So I'm like, okay, let me go check to see how much I have left. Tell me why the total is $2,000, almost $3,000. And
Bro. Off a $500 loan? Nah. No. No, that's not right.
Call them and I'm like, hey, like, I'm not understanding how this loan works. Can you give me more clarity? And the lady's rude on the phone. And she's just like, we sent you paperwork. You should have understood how this worked before you signed on. And I'm like,
wow.
Okay.
Customize and save with
Bro,
limited mutual.
what? From $500?
This is a picture-perfect example of the companies that I show you when we're talking about any sort of debt. Credit card debt, the payday loans, the buy here, pay here lots as well. If you search any of this kind of stuff up, because everybody is taking our information, you're going to start getting targeted ads from these companies right here. She got a payday loan, plain and simple. And that $5,000 turns into $3,000 because the paperwork is pages and pages long. And they hide how much the APR is actually going to be at the end of the day. And you just sign on the dotted line and now have to deal with the consequences.
Bro, a $500 loan and she end up paying back almost $3,000. Yo, this can't be life. That's crazy work.
And this is how we learn. Been there and still learning. I'm not gonna lie, that's a rough lesson though. $500 to $3,000 is crazy. It should also be illegal. It should.
Yeah,
We've
like,
seen
I'm
payday
like,
loans
what?
at 5, 6, 700%. I believe there was one from Caleb's show that was sitting at around 900%. And this kind of stuff to me is only getting worse because as I said, you search any of this kind of stuff online, you'll get tons of targeted ads, emails, things in the mail, all trying to trick you into getting these crazy high payments. Another comment from you guys, I financed a car through a dealership and it was the worst mistake I've ever made in my life. 20% APR for 3 years. But I thought it was no big deal because they said I could refinance for a lower interest rate later. Tried to refinance after a year with on-time payments, but I wasn't able to because my credit score was low. So I ended up paying the loan with a super high interest just to find out that my credit score is 500. It was worse than when I got into the car. Also, they never gave me a title or the second key. Had to replace the ECU after electrical problems and needed to get a second key to program it and had to pay another $500. Now they won't answer my calls, give me my title or a key, and the car has been paid off since December. I feel like this has to be a story from a buy here, pay here lot. Just basically the car version of the last clip with the payday loans. The amount of shady stuff that I've seen from those dealerships. I know how expensive vehicles are right now, and that's how they try to entice you into those lots with deals that seem too good to be true, and they are. If you can, I would completely avoid them altogether.
So I took a $127.5 thousand home equity loan out on my house. You may be wondering, why would I take money out of my house? Oh my God, it's a appreciating asset. So I want to show you guys a visual on my idea, right? So right now we're paying over almost $670 a month for this, $930 a month for that. $220 a month for the camper, $1,380 a month for the house, plus $300 and something a month for the roof, right? So the $127,000 loan is paying off the roof, it's paying off the Durango, it's paying off the truck. It paid off a $19,000 a personal loan that I had out for quite a few reasons.
So this guy pulled money out of his house to pay off his depreciating assets that were more expensive than the mortgage itself, by the way, on top of a almost $20,000 personal loan. He ends up explaining this a bit more and the situation just ends up getting worse, but we go look at some of the comments. Sounds like you can't afford your new vehicles and camper, living way above your means. $1,300 mortgage with a $900 truck is crazy. You took out 85% of your equity. When you go to sell the house, you're going to have no equity left for the down payment on all the other crap that you're looking to purchase. You need to stop keeping up with the Joneses. This is quite honestly one of the most expensive things you could have done to yourself. There'll be very little equity left, and he replies to this comment, why would I want land in a new house and no toys or vehicles? Makes no sense. Some people you just can't help, and you have to let them make their own mistakes, because his only care in the world world is his Dodge Durango and pickup truck along with his camper. It'll be an interesting situation when those modern vehicles start breaking down. But I mean, what else am I supposed to say? We have a screenshot here on board telling me the biggest financial mistake you've made. Not like I spent $400 on a concert ticket, something that financially wrecked you. Buying a house in Florida, remodeling it, and a year later, Hurricane Ian hit us directly.
Ooh,
spending $25,000 a year on college just to get away from my family. Probably spending $100,000 on our wedding and another $25,000 on our honeymoon before buying a house.
That's
I spent $3,000 on Shein within 5 months and got rid of the clothes. I think about how that $3,000 could have helped me elsewhere. I had to also delete all online shopping apps. $3,000 on a place like Shein must have been a ton of clothing. All low quality polyester crap that they already ended up throwing out. Took a girl to Jamaica, paid for everything. A week later we stopped dating, still financially recovering. Why would you do that? I had 3 jobs in my early 20s for fun and because I wanted to buy and do whatever I wanted. Didn't save a single dime. Alright then.
What's been your worst money mistake?
We took a home equity line out and we bought a car.
What was your worst money mistake?
Buying that stand and then the estate went bankrupt.
Maybe trying to invest too quickly.
Don't get into it too quick when you don't know what you're investing into.
Exactly.
What has been your worst money mistake?
When I was traveling by myself, I used every limit of credit card I had to do it. That stays with you. It takes a long time and it multiplies.
I pulled a bunch of my 401k money, paid the penalty to buy my boat. It's very expensive to buy a boat in the Virgin Islands. And that was awesome, and I met her. And now looking back, like, you know, being older with a mortgage, better do that stuff when you're younger, probably.
But some of that could be so detrimental that it stays with you even at your older age. Some of the comments are not much better. Taking out a second mortgage and installing a pool 28 years ago. Buying a boat, absolute money pit. Another person says solar. Another comment from you guys. I have a friend who spent over $6,000 at Disney on her trip, most of which was stuffed animals. She justified it by saying most of what she bought were gifts for friends and family. Then she made fun of me for being cheap and not buying stuff I don't need. I hope the $6,000 also includes the ticket and everything else that goes along with going to Disney, because I bet all the merchandise and souvenirs are unbelievably expensive, but $6,000 seems unreal to me. Now we can head over to a staple on this channel, everybody who just doesn't want to pay their taxes.
So, nail tech, $40,800 a year. That means we're setting about $1,200 aside for taxes, correct?
Not correct. I'm supposed to be putting taxes back, but I do not do that.
Financial audit bingo, here we go. What about last year's taxes?
No,
How are you
not yet.
looking? How much did you pay in taxes?
I don't know.
Did you file taxes?
No.
How much you making?
And 600 a week.
Is that before taxes or after taxes?
I don't do taxes.
What does that mean?
That is like a freelance gig.
That's not how money works.
Yeah.
How do you owe so many taxes?
So when I do my tax form, I usually put single and 9 dependents.
9 dependents?
Yeah, single and 5 dependents.
Are you single and do you have 5 dependents?
No.
How many dependents do you have?
None.
Committing tax fraud and then self-snitching on a channel that gets hundreds of thousands of views, millions really. Can't say that that's the best choice you've ever made in your life. The first rule of tax evasion, don't talk about your tax evasion. The IRS watching this, people admitting it so freely online as if you can't be tracked, because when it comes to the government and money, they are going to find you. And every time I look that specific situation up again, there are just more and more examples and videos of people admitting the exact same thing.
I owned this car for literally 1 day. Okay, you guys, the past 2 days of my life have been so insanely stressful, and let me tell you why. So I bought my car. Woohoo! Yay, I didn't even get to really enjoy it because the financing and all of the contracting part, they fucked me so hard. They messed me up so hard. I didn't realize how bad the refinancing contract was, blase, blase, blase. I didn't realize any of these things until, of course, I call my father and I tell him I'm all excited. I'm like, oh, they did this and this, and my dad's like, what? Basically, they signed me up for gap insurance, didn't need it. Honestly, guys, I can go back and forth about how shitty the contract was, but luckily, there's a 2-day canceling contract fee. So instead of buying this car, that I was so excited to do. I am no longer buying this car, and I'm here at Mercedes-Benz right now, and I'm dropping it off. I owned this car for literally 1 day. I'm just gonna trade it in, forget the contract, whatever.
Okay, so this is somebody who walked into a dealership with no knowledge about what was going to happen because they absolutely had to get a brand new Mercedes-Benz. She was complaining more about the gap insurance on the vehicle, but I would venture to guess that the APR and everything else that went around it was probably a way worse deal, but she just let the salesman take care of that. I wanted to get my new GLA 250, and now she's going to give it back. She doesn't want to deal with it at all for a fee. The things that people do and the choices they'll make, just so they get to drive around in a vehicle with a badge on the front and the back that shows other people that I have a nice luxury car. Another comment here, my worst financial decision was signing a rental lease at a condo with a friend. I was the owner and she was a co-owner. I moved out less than 1 year later, had her sign the release paperwork, and she took over the lease. A year later, I get Credit Karma and see that I owe $4,000 and call the complex and they never got the paperwork, even though I dropped it off, but they never took a picture of it. So I was on the hook. We've seen a lot of examples of this recently. People giving money to friends, family members, loans, not getting anything back, just getting completely screwed over. That just sounds absolutely wild to me.
Reminder, if you've been spending a lot of money on yourself and you're feeling bad about it, just remember at least you don't have a baby to pay for, but one day you probably will, so you need to enjoy this time right now where you have all this money to spend on you.
Now we get into the high spending portion of this video, where there are tons of people saying that you should just buy everything that you want, spend all your money. This one justifying it because you currently don't have a child, so you should be buying everything under the sun because when you do have a kid, you won't have the opportunity. To me, it just sounds like you'll never be financially stable enough to have a kid in the first place, but we could go on to more examples.
YouTube TV may drop your favorite sports. No more football or NBA. Plus, no NASCAR or Golf Channel. YouTube TV customers, act now to keep watching your favorite sports. Go to getyourchannels.com now.
There's DIY, and there's doing it yourself.
Not sure who needs to wear this, but spend your money. Unless you have something specific to save your money for and all of your bills and necessities are paid for, treat yourself. You make money to spend it, and if you don't have something specific you're saving for, spend it. Like today, I spent my mom's money. Will I probably be spending my own later? Yeah, because I work to make money to spend it. And you should too.
Spend the money. Buy the cute outfit you want. Go on that trip you've always wanted to. Book the vacation you've always wanted to. Your friend invites you to a concert?
Oh,
go.
gosh.
Alright, so the reasoning is always the same. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So I'm going to have fun in the moment and drain my bank account to zero 24/7. Legitimately the YOLO mentality. But not surprising, a majority of people live a lot longer than they initially think, I guess. Girl, no, this is terrible advice. Today I spent my mom's money. This is so real. This is exactly what got me into debt. You can make more money, but you can't make more memories. Why does every memory then have to cost a ton of cash? And just say you could make more money to the majority of people that are hurting right now in this cost of living crisis. Not nearly as easy as you think. 100%. You can't take that money to the grave with you. I know that this is just my personal opinion, but I'd like to have money set aside for any of my future family members when I do drop dead. I feel like this has become less and less common of a thought process now, but I don't know. That's just the way that I'm wired. Okay, but what if I do live past 65? Do I really want to be working until I die because I wanted to spend every penny that I made? There's going to be significantly more stories and experiences in 20 to 30 years from all these types of people with this mentality, all because apparently living in the moment means spending all of your money instantly.
Every new agent should go out there and buy that brand new BMW or Mercedes that they cannot afford. When I interview people, I'm like, do you live with somebody? Okay, who is it? Oh, it's my husband. Do you need to work? No, but I just love to help people. I'm like, oh God, do you have a car? What kind of car? Oh, I have a Hyundai or whatever. I'm like, oh, why don't you go buy a BMW and then come back? When you buy that new BMW and you got an $800,000 payment every month, you're going to be grinding just that much harder to make sure that you can make that payment. And that's a kind of agent that's going to make it.
We've seen this several times before.
That's ridiculous mentality.
Will try to justify
That is not a
buying
smart
very
mentality.
expensive car, saying that they're forcing themselves to work harder so I could have this Ferrari, which in a majority of the cases just puts you in a very bad financial spot, but this is justified to be able to turn into a successful real estate agent. Faking it till you make it. But in today's real estate market, I don't have to tell you that it's not looking good out there right now. Reports from late 2024 and early 2025 indicate that the percentage of real estate agents who don't sell any homes in a year varies by report, with some stating around 47 to 49%, while another report cites 71% of active agents not closing any sales in 2024.
Oh,
But yeah, go buy that brand new
71%.
BMW X5, have $1,000 a month car payment, and get repo. That seems like a great choice to me. I hope this is satire because this talk is moronic. LOL, this is the worst advice that anybody could give. It's just amazing to see what some people say online.
Arguably one of the worst financial decisions I have made in my 20s is getting an Amex card. If you don't know what that is, it's a charge card, meaning you have to pay the full balance at the end of every month, right? And so the money, like, because I use my Amex for everything because I'm going to get my points, you know what I'm saying? But you don't see the actual money coming out of your actual, like, Wells Fargo, Chase, whatever bank account. So I'd be spending. I'm like, I'm so good with money, right? And then the statement comes out and it says due $2,500. Or what? Who was spending all that? And then I look at what I spend. It's like Whole Foods, Sephora, blah blah blah. And I'm like those things in my mind don't come up to that because I don't see it. But at the end of every month, $2,000, $3,000. Do not get an Amex charge card.
Wow. $2,000 on Sephora.
Find buzzer beaters and cliffhangers in one place.
Oh no.
Serious.
I think this video is summed up just by this comment. Bro just figured out how credit cards work. So when we see examples of people thinking that credit cards are just free money, it comes out of thin air, those people are actually being serious. Some people don't know how credit cards work, but you absolutely need to get those points or cash back. And I know this is why people like Dave Ramsey hate credit cards in general, because some people do not have the discipline or the knowledge. They somehow think the rewards are going to outweigh the money that they're actively spending, and it completely ruins their life. I don't have a problem with credit cards at all. I use it for everything, but I have the discipline to pay it off in full, along with getting all the rewards that comes with it. But these types of examples just baffle me.
What is one bad financial decision that you regret making?
Bankruptcy.
Bankruptcy?
Yeah. In 2014, my credit score was probably, I think it was like 4 or something.
In the 4s after the bankruptcy?
After the bankruptcy, and then they started sending me credit cards right away. I did a bankruptcy, and all of a sudden I'm getting all these credit cards, and then I'll get a couple.
Like secure credit cards?
No, they were unsecured.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was like $500. So.
Yeah.
But I knew if I did it right, I could start building my credit. So now I'm back up to 750.
Yeah.
10 years later.
It took you 10 years to get back up to a 750 or like
well,
sooner than
2014, so yeah.
So there you go. You have somebody hitting the reset button, and it took a decade, along with the predatory companies immediately sending over credit cards, trying to get you right back into debt. Why am I not surprised? But most of the time we hear it takes 7 years to completely reset after a bankruptcy, and people try to justify that it's not really that long. You can get right back on your feet, but this guy took even longer, a decade. Another comment here. Same here. It took me 10 years to get back on my feet with my credit. My aunt convinced my grandfather to file for bankruptcy. It was one of his life regrets. Another screenshot here make me feel better about my poor life choices. What's the last thing you spent money on that you 100% should not have done? Use the last of my money for gardening supplies, because if I'm gonna be broke, I'm damn sure I'm not going to be sober too. Nice. Health insurance, not like it covers anything anyway. Botox, I'm miserable, but I don't want my face to scream it out loud. I don't know, I just think it's really creepy when you see people either speak or try to show emotion and their face barely moves. That's just my opinion though. Rented an island house for a year. We had the time of our lives and it ended July 1st. Maxed out 5 credit cards and will likely never recover. But I live only once. I just spent another $282 on his annual checkup. An image of a dog goes back to the example earlier. Clothes that I never wear because I don't go out. I did DoorDash last night, then turned around and used the money for DoorDash. So I have even more examples for this episode, but I realize that I've been recording for a long time. I don't want these to be super long. So that's all I got for you guys today.
I did DoorDash last night and then turned around and used the money for DoorDash. My goodness. Shout out to Zach Rios. All right, guys, here we are at the last clip of the live stream. We got Charlie Kirk, and it says Charlie Kirk called out churches and pastors. Let's take a listen.
Charlie Kirk always unapologetically stood on truth. Watch this clip of him doing exactly that.
You know, Donald Trump's not as pro-life as me. I say, well, has your pastor spoke out regularly against the slaughter of the unborn? Well, no, my pastor doesn't do politics. Oh, so you want Donald Trump to speak out on holy matters when the person you tithe and offer to, that you call your home church, won't even whisper about it. Got it. Church is a place where you go to be saved and corrected. It is not a place to be told about how your lifestyle is the greatest thing ever. You go there to be reminded that you need a savior and that your life is currently in error. But people don't like that. They say, well, that's not very nice. Well, hold on a second. What exactly are you running here? Is it a church, which is about correction and elevating the divine? Or is it a place where a TED Talk occurs with organized parking, above average coffee, and a motivational speech, and good music with nice lights? What exactly are you running there? You see, a church, in its proper context, should be unafraid to go against the culture and not conform to the world, but preach the...
Charlie Kirk.
That was true facts right there that he's talking. What are we running there? So often I've seen things like that. You know, I'm happy that he was able to challenge it like that, because I know that made a lot of people who are in churches, even like what he described, think, you know? Yeah, we got the above average coffee, we got the organized parking, we got the lights, and we got the fog machine, you know, but most of the time, like, our pastor's kind of itching our ears, and we're always hearing sermons about how great our life is and how Jesus is going to bless us and how we just need to hold on so we can get what we want. And I think it's a big deal when Charlie's like, what are we running here? You know, a church is a place where you come to be saved, to where you come to elevate the divine. And that's a huge thing. Like, a lot of people don't understand what it is. Not to mention that the church is the people. This is the people of God. Let's see, they're called out one. So it's not even just the building, but it's also what type of people am I around when I am inside this building. So shout out to Charlie Kirk. He was always there challenging the status quo, challenging what was going on. And, you know, I think it's a big deal when he says, does your pastor speak out about the unborn? We're not even going to go there tonight about how many pastors won't touch on abortion because they have women sitting in their congregation. And it's like, God forbid I offend all the women in my congregation and they leave and never come back, right? But God's called us to truth, right? So even our pastors got to get it together, got to get more bold and courageous. And we'll be praying that they do so. All right, guys, so we're going to end the live stream here. Until next time, which is tomorrow, I will see you guys for the daily live stream. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. Be peaceful. And don't forget, tell somebody about Jesus. Peace.